Hello guys, I hope wherever you're watching us from, you're having a great time. This is AfriPost and welcome to today's video. Now, every year we have always seen that African leaders are always trooping to Europe, they're trooping to United States, they go to Russia, they go to China on things that are always called Africa-China Summit, Africa-France Summit, Africa-Italy Summit, Africa-US Summit. These summits have always been used as the ground for capturing African head of states to help European powers and also the superpowers across the world to ensure that they have control of African resources and Africa as it is. Many of these summits do not always work for the interest of the African person. And this is something that is always very serious because you find that many leaders go to these summits and they go with personal affairs and they go with the desire to bolster their personal influence within the continent or even within their countries, and also seek patronage and seek relevance within these superpowers. And in today's video, I want us to look at this in an in-depth manner. There is a speech that I want us to listen to first before we delve deeper into the issues and really understand why there is need for a paradigm shift of how Africa handles its affairs. So let's watch this clip of one Professor Abdoulaye Bathily, who is a Senegalese diplomat and also politician. He is talking about how the recent wave of scramble for Africa is leading to underdevelopment and delaying growth of the African continent. Let's watch this, then come back and talk about it more.
The liberation project can be revived only also if the economy of Africa take an overturn away from those so-called partnerships, those so-called numerous summits where 54 African heads of state come before one head of state of one country. It's not about only dignity. It's about self-respect.
I'm a king.
The military build-up under the pretext of fighting against violent extremism, terrorism. When you look at the map of Africa today, and you look at the level, the extent of foreign military presence on the continent, as a historian, I cannot but remind me of what has happened at the end of the 19th century, the period of conquest and colonization. There are more military presence on the foreign military presence on the continent today than even in the 19th century at the time of the colonial conquest and colonization. This is really worrisome. So the scramble, the new scramble for Africa is today a threat, continued threat for the development of the continent. It's a continued risk for the stability of the continent, a continued risk for the unity of the continent. These are facts which are documented by all researchers in the field of the economy, politics, security. The continent is driven into geopolitical rivalries among competing powers of the world from all sides. This also is a fact, a reality. Therefore, the issue today for us as Africans For us as progressive Africans, for us all as committed to a better world, committed to international relations geared to the benefit of all the peoples of the world. To be aware of this situation and to take action. So the question remains how to do it. What is to be done? The dreams of the founding fathers and mothers of the Organization of African Unity, who created that continental organization, those dreams have to be investigated again, revisited, and we must reflect on how to make them come true. As students, young men and women, those days, girls, when the OAU was launched by Kwame Nkrumah and his peers, we were expecting Africa to rise up. Our leaders to help our people create the conditions not only for the political liberation of Africa, as Kwame Nkrumah put it. He said, seek first the political kingdom, and everything else will be added on to it. It is true, what was the first phase? We have seen in my young age when I was in secondary school, I have seen in less than a few months so many flags coming out of the African continent. As Harold Macmillan, the Prime Minister of Britain, used to say, this continent, Africa, the wind of change is blowing over this continent of Africa, whether we like it or not. So many flags were raised, new national anthems. But we have seen that new flag, national anthems are not enough for liberation. Liberation needs more than that. Go beyond those signs like national anthem and national flags. So we were very, very excited, thrilled about the creation of OAU at that time. But decades later, we have to acknowledge the fact that we must go beyond and break the colonial ties in the field of the economy, in the fields of politics, to assert real sovereignty for the continent, its governments, and its people. This is what independence is about. Therefore, we are faced today with an obligation, a moral as well as a political obligation, to revive the liberation project as a total project, a project of renaissance for our continent. To do this, of course, I'm not a candidate for any election to put forward a program, but I sincerely believe from the experience that the revival of the liberation project can be effective only if we engage to reshape the course of African history at different levels. First and foremost, the present situation, it is obvious that the new scramble of Africa and the way it plays out stems from the leadership crisis on the continent. Africa needs a new leadership to reverse the dynamic unleashed by this new scramble. The issue here is about to consolidate the democratic governance on the continent. The rule of law, transparency, uphold civil liberties, transform qualitatively political parties, which tend more and more to become cliques who are governed by self-serving leaders, ambitious leaders. We need vibrant civil societies in Africa who can tell the truth to any power that be. The press is important on educating and informing the people, not only on their rights, but also on their duties as committed citizens to move Africa forward. Africa has to get rid of populist politics, ethnic politics. We need humble leadership. Africa needs leaders who have visions who reflect from the realities of the past, the future of the continent. We need thoughtful leaders. The ideals of Pan-Africanism should be revived among the African citizenry. So the project of liberation, of reviving the liberation project is also about the unity, the cultural unity of the continent. To regain our dignity before the world. The liberation project can be revived only also if the economy of Africa take another turn away from those so-called partnerships, those so-called numerous summits where 54 African heads of state come before one head of state of one country. It's not about only dignity. It's about self-respect. Shall we remain providers of raw materials, non-transformed products? Let our arable lands to be auctioned by international investors who will come, produce goods, produce food, and export it while our populations are dying of hunger? No. African agriculture has to be redeployed in such a way to feed the Africans. For this transformation to happen, and in order for that to happen, not only we need inventive leadership, committed leadership, dedicated leadership, but we need also other segments of society to be mobilized for the economic redemption of Africa. We should not be just so-called partners of multinational corporations. We must have a better ambition. Our ambition should not be to become ever comprador bourgeoisie. But active business people, committed business people who have at heart the well-being of the African people. It is today imperative that our education system make a break from the colonial type of education we had so far, so that our education system will produce, transmit and produce knowledge which will enable our people to stand up in great numbers, in millions, to understand the world in which we live in. and to be armed with the ambition to participate in the progress of humankind in every sector of formation, education, scientific innovation. This is what the renovation, what I call the rebranding, the liberation agenda is about. The scramble for Africa, the new scramble which is taking shape now, is about also weakening the continent to prevent them from harnessing all the potentials of our population through all their segments. It's on the basis of the weakening of the African continent that the new scramble can continue and last forever. We have to avoid this at all costs. The energies of millions of young people, inventors, scientists, educators, civil society organizations, women organizations, who are keen, mobilized to make this continent once more a continent of hope, a continent of progress, a continent where the people, human beings, will be restored in their dignity. We belong to a generation which had, as I said, high hopes on our continent. We will never despair. We are optimistic. As comrades in arms, I call on the progressives on this continent through this rostrum to join for the new struggle, to devise new strategies and tactics to make the revolution in Africa a reality according to the dreams of the founding fathers. I thank you for your attention.
Now, from the speech by the good professor, I think it is quite evident that Africa needs a total overhaul of the leadership structure that it has, because we have realized that over time, the leaders that the continent have are the ones who sell out Africa. The youth are bulging right now, and they deserve a space to really control their future. They have always been told that they are leaders of tomorrow and that they should wait for their time to come. But I think from the things I've seen in the continent and even the recent protests that are going on in Kenya, it is safe to say that Africa is coming of age and the leaders of tomorrow are already there, ready to take up their space today. One thing that the professor has said that I would concur with is the quote attributed to one Kwame Nkrumah when he said that seek ye first the political freedom and everything else shall be added unto you. Africa needs political freedom, especially African youths who have been taken in circles and various promises given to them about their future leadership that is supposed to happen in future. But they are waking up and saying that we don't have to wait for future. We have to really call ourselves to order right now. Most African leaders are just puppets of the West. Look at President William Ruto, who has been always in the forefront trying to put himself as the person who can champion and speak on behalf of Africa. But if you look at him and how Kenyans are coming out against him, you will openly see that leaders within the continent are either not true to themselves or not true to the Pan-African ideals that were first spoken out and given to us by our forefathers. I like also something that the professor is saying about the need to have robust leadership within the continent. There is the need to also revive the Pan-Africanist ideals within the populace of the African people so that they are able to handle their issues and be very conscious about where they should be and where they are as at now. One thing that is very important is that we must always remember our past, because with this we are able to look at the areas where we made mistakes and readily able to work out formulas that can make us not repeat the mistakes that we did before, and also look at the future and have aspirations on what really we want our people to have, what we want our future generation to have and inherit. The question that he asks here that really gets into my heart is, shall Africa continue remaining as the exporter of raw materials, as the exporter of non-processed materials to Western nations, to European nations? Is this what Africa really needs? I think our leaders are taking us for a ride, and they need to shape up or ship out, because if they can continue the corrupt activities that are very evident in Africa, look at Nigeria, look at Kenya, look at any African country, you will see that the rates of corruption within those countries are very high. And this is one of the major hindrances towards having a developed Africa. This corruption has been perpetuated by the West, and these corrupt leaders have always been saved by Western nations to ensure that Africa does not take up its flight of development. That is a very important thing that all of us must wake up and see and find a strategy to end. When this happens, our leaders will stop going to Western nations to seek alliance with those Western nations on things that do not matter to Africa, but they will go there to seek for equal representation and mutual benefit between our continent and those other continents, because Africa has a lot to offer, and the current scramble for Africa is dividing our leaders and confusing them so that they're not even able to concentrate on the development that they need to concentrate on within their specific countries. So that is a very, very important point that we must put across. If you're watching us for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Also remember to give us your opinion down in the comment section so that we may also understand your perspective about the topic. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.